Welcome to the Intention Podcast with Tami Palmer, a show where we unpack what it truly means to live life with intention. Through thought-provoking conversation with some of my most trusted guides and friends, we'll spark your curiosity and creative thinking one episode at a time. Poet Mary Oliver asks us, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" Let's dive in together to explore the concept of intentional living. Today, we're talking about creativity. My dear friend Kim Kleeman taught me the line, "How much do you create versus consume?" We are clearly living in a consumer-oriented culture where we blindly ingest content, videos, images, a culture where we've moved away from creative pursuits. I mean, when was the last time you chose a puzzle over Netflix, picked up a paintbrush, fleshed out an idea into a plan or an outline or a group, a workbench, a story? To help us dive into this topic, I've invited Cynthia Morris, author, artist, and certified coach. Cynthia helps people focus, follow through, and finish their creative work. She has published 7 nonfiction books and 2 novels. Her most recent book is her Lisbon Colors. Through one-on-one coaching, online workshops, and creativity retreats in places such as Paris and London and Boulder, Colorado, Cynthia helps people go from stuck to wildly liberated. I've personally known Cynthia for decades, and her coaching has helped get me through some creative blocks. If it weren't for her, I'm actually not sure if my novel, Finding Lancelot, would even exist. I'll tell you why in today's episode. So, Cynthia, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tami. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm really excited for our conversation. And as we spoke a couple weeks ago and thought about what should we talk about on the topic of creativity in the span of less than an hour. And of course, we said we could talk on hours and hours and hours, right? But I thought a fun place to start was I was on your website and I noticed that you have a Brené Brown quote. And of course, I love Brené. The quote was that unexpressed creativity is not benign, which I want the listeners just to take a moment with that. Unexpressed creativity is not benign. What does that mean to you, and why did you put that up on your website?
I was in the audience years ago when Brené was on stage and said that, and I burst into tears because it felt like all of my work as a coach felt so validated. What I've seen with creative people who aren't creating, and myself included, if I'm ever in a place where I'm not creating or there's something that I want to do that I'm not getting to, it feels like a huge integrity gap. And not just integrity in the way of, oh, I'm not doing what I said I was going to do, or I'm not being honest, but in the integrity gap of I'm not being me. I'm living a semi-false existence. So it's not benign to not be expressing that creativity. Shows up in so many ways: anxiety, jealousy, resentment, frustration, anger, a sense of always being off or not getting to something. And I think about when we have something on our to-do list, or someday I'm going to write that thing. I don't like that feeling. I don't like it at all. It's not like something good, like, oh, I've got this great idea in the bank and someday I'm going to get to it. It feels like unexpressed, undigested, unprocessed material. Like whatever it is that we are here to create is here to give us something back. So that if me not doing it means I'm not getting what I need to get from that. It's a lot of suffering, bottom line. I think about it as like our gifts is like this big Santa bag that we're carrying around forever. It just weighs a lot. It's heavy. It's a burden. And that's why I like helping people to finally do what they're here to do so they feel alive and not burdened by their creativity.
I think that's so true. One thing that came to mind as you were talking was Hitler was an artist. And I believe the story is he couldn't get into art school, or his artistic path was thwarted in some way. And it's like, was that really at the baseline of everything, right? That unexpressed, and an extreme example of what that can look like as something not benign. And of course there are other stories of that too, but I think it's a condition of the human soul that we must express and find ways. And numbing out has it's dangerous.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't mention. Like, what are we doing if we're not creating? You mentioned consuming, we're over consuming in many different ways, and ways that aren't healthy or good. So, one of the things that I've learned from all of my time making things and helping other people make things is how much we get from making our art or doing our writing. We get so much energy, we get so much vitality, we get such a I mean, it's not always easy. It's not like some kind of writing a rainbow every day. I don't
For
want
sure.
to give that impression. But even the labor of it is fruitful. It's like, oh, I did so much more than I thought I could do. I learned so much more than I even imagined from doing that project. So I feel like the benefits of expressing our creativity, no matter what it is, or if it's never something you put out in the world, the benefits are huge. There's so much more than the downside or the pain of not creating.
And sometimes we have to, I find this for myself as a writer, we have to write to understand what we're thinking, right? The
Sure,
writing is the pathway to the information, the knowledge, the
totally.
feelings. And we forget that. And we just live so much in our head that there's
Yeah.
expressing it is really, really helpful.
I feel that writing is magical in that what you just said, that like I had no idea that was in there. Even yesterday, writing something with my writing group, just a few minutes, 3 minutes, and wow, I had no idea that was in there. And I'm thinking all the time about stuff. So
Yeah.
it's not that I'm living an unexamined life, but something about writing, it just opens a door to so depth of understanding that I really love. I love those insights that come from our ink.
One of my favorite writing stories was I was in one of your online ongoing workshops. I was trying to remember, was it we met once a week and we would meet online and write together, or maybe it was monthly. I don't remember the cadence.
The Impulse Writing Club, yeah, every
Impulse
week.
Writing Club weekly. And you would give us a prompt, and it was lovely because you would start off with, you've got 5 minutes to write, you've got 15 minutes to write, you've got a half an hour, whatever the timing was, but just kind of getting those juices going. And the prompt was the line of poetry, "A God of Flowers," which I think was also Mary Oliver. And I just looked at it going, what am I going to write about this? And next thing I know, I sketched down a whole short story, and this whole scene came, and the idea of where was this living inside of me? What was I pulling this from? How our imagination creates worlds. I mean, how J.K. Rowling downloaded all of the world of Harry Potter, and all you think of all of these stories that we all embrace and love and read. But if you're not a writer, it's so wild to understand the magic of a writer writing something, looking at the paper and saying, where the heck did this come from?
Yeah. I love that. I love the mystery of where things come from. I don't know. I'm sure there's a neuroscientist who has figured it out. I don't need to know. I don't want to solve that mystery. I just know that it's real and
Yeah,
it happens. And it's a big trust fall to just like you, like, oh, I don't know what this prompt. Let's just see what happens. And you dive in and some other part of you takes over.
right,
I love that.
right. And one thing that you and I talked about was just this whole concept of the spirituality of writing. And so, the best description to me is that you're channeling, right? Like you're getting something from somewhere else. And to your point, it could just be subconscious and written off as something psychological. I choose to look at it from a spiritual perspective, that I'm tapping into the energetic, creative universe, and downloading from there. But I think there's a connection between spirituality and all art. You and I are talking about writing specifically, but I know you do visual arts, and I think sculptors probably feel that same way too when they're working with clay, right? It's all of it is channeling, but this connection to spirituality is really fascinating to me. So I know it's a big topic for you. What are your thoughts on spirituality and creativity? And share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think, this question, where do your ideas come from or where do things come from? That's a big part of the mystery, whether it comes from the subconscious, whether we're channeling it. It's not from our ego necessarily or our known terrain of our mind or our experience. Even when you're writing something, when I was writing my novel that was based on experiences that I had or inspired by experiences that I had, there were still things that were coming that were complete fiction, were completely from somewhere else that weren't from me. And so, do I know where that's from? Do I? No. I All I know is that it's kind of like getting out of our own way. What do we need? And I think about our practices of care, like sleep and the food we eat and the things we consume. The things we consume. You mentioned that again, right at the top. Like what we consume makes a big difference to what I call being transparent to the divine. So if you're just like, let's just, you're eating a lot of junk food or consuming a lot of junky stuff or whatever, you're just kind of cluttering up your
Yeah.
your instrument. You're not transparent to the divine. You're not available for those things that might wanting to come in for you. Same with all of the emotional clutter that we go around with, just being overly anxious or worried or obsessed with things that we don't. It's just all that churn and stuff that we don't really need to do. It's not really creating an environment that's available for creativity. So I'm not saying like, oh, we need to be like so like fit and healthy and perfect. It's just like, what can you do to clear the space for being that channel, for being open and available?
Yeah, that's a good point. Is I hadn't even really thought about is how to keep that channel clear and open and not gunked up.
And you hear a lot of people say, right when I get up in the morning, that's when I'm most clear, or that's when ideas come, or that's like before all of the human
Hmm.
debris and clutter
Right, right,
comes
totally.
in, where you are more in tune with that still space that allows for ideas, or in the middle of the night. But I know like once our days get going and we're involved in all the other roles that we play, it's often takes a little more effort to get into that sense of flow and connection.
Find that flow a lot when I'm out writing or walking. So
Yes.
I'll sometimes turn on the notes feature on my phone and just start talking in. I've written a blog that way. I've written a lot of content that way because it mimics that same sensation that you get in the shower where all ideas come, but you can actually hold your phone and not ruin it. um, so I find the walking time can be really a great channel opener.
I love that. I feel that too. Walking is one of my favorite things, and I feel so. I love just the human animal nature of it. Like my body, like this is what my body is born to do. This is what we're here to do. I feel that, and then yeah, getting ideas. It's always connections are made. It's fun when you're writing, you're working on something. Okay, I'm going to stop, go for a walk.
Hmm.
Another idea comes, come back, do it. That's one of the things a lot of people think, that writing is just sitting or standing and at the keyboard. And it's like, no, there's a lot of writing happening when you're walking or shower or washing dishes or whatever,
Yeah.
off keyboard time.
Totally. And one of the reasons I decided to start this podcast was I wanted the transcripts from the conversations because when we're exchanging ideas, there's a lot of stimulating content that can be surfaced. And then I can take that and repurpose it. And maybe that becomes a blog, maybe it goes into a future book. And there are concepts and ideas and content that will come that wouldn't come if it was just me and my computer. But we need to have that in conversation with others.
Sure,
So I think
definitely.
that's a big piece of it. One concept, because this is our episode on creativity, on writing, I wanted to introduce a concept called big magic to our listeners. And this came out of a book by, oh my gosh, I just blanked on her
Liz
name.
Gilbert.
Liz Gilbert, thank you. Wow, it's good to have a guest here. So Liz is she's written a lot of fiction. You might know her from Eat, Pray, Love, but big magic really spoke to me in terms of a concept because it's the notion that ideas are actual beings that exist and are seeking to be made manifest. So they float around the universe and they'll pop into your head. And if you don't act on it, they pop into somebody else's. And that's that moment when you're like, dang it, I had that idea. Why didn't I do it? Now they're making money off of this product, whatever it is, right? And what really resonated for me is I've had big magic moments happen in my life that are just they're almost unbelievable. So I wanted to share a story or two and just open the listeners up to this concept to start to pay attention to it and to start to understand what it is. So I was at a writing retreat in the mid 2000s. And what you do at writing retreats is you talk to other writers, and it's very common to say, so this is what my book's about. What's your book about? And I was having that conversation with a lady named Sarah Ockler. She was describing her book. And as I'm listening, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is my book. So I start describing my book. Funny enough, my book is also about, and we're going into the description, Sarah leaves the writing retreat, proceeds to land a 2-book deal, 6-figure contract with a major New York publisher. I'm insanely jealous, also recognizing the fact that she's got her manuscript put together faster than I did. She was further along. Fast forward about a year later, I land an agent in New York. She's shopping my novel around, and she explains that she's going to send it to, and it was Sarah's publisher. I don't remember if it was Little Brown, one of the houses. And I said, this is going to sound crazy, but I wouldn't bother. You're going to get a rejection letter saying that they just published 20 Boy Summer, yada, yada, yada. So my agent proceeds to send out the letter. Sure enough, verbatim, the rejection letter reads, this is the book we would publish had we not just published 20 Boy Summer by Sarah Ockler. So it was a big magic moment, right? The idea had come to both of us. She acted faster. She made it to market. In the book, Big Magic, Liz Gilbert explains that she and Ann Patchett had the same idea. And Ann Patchett was the one that actually got it to market. One time I was in a writing group in Boulder, and one of my fellow group participants had written a great story and was dragging her feet on kind of pulling the novel together. That summer, we read the People magazine top book reads. Sure enough, it was the description of her book. And so I've seen this happen. It also happened with a screenplay I wrote in college over and over again. And what that's done for me is it's lit a little bit of a fire under me too. If I've got a really good idea, don't dawdle. Get it out, make it happen, because it won't sit around and wait, and it will find another host. I don't know if you've had any of those crazy moments, Cynthia, but those were just some stories I really wanted to share with our listeners.
I love that lit a fire under you because it sounds kind of painful to me. It's like, oh, that hurts. Well, my first novel, Chasing Sylvia Beach, came out the same year that Woody Allen's movie Midnight in Paris came out. Same plot. So
you get it.
Yeah, I was pretty annoyed. But this is the title of one of my talks. Your talent is not a Twinkie. It does have a shelf life. Like, your ideas need to happen. They're not going to sit there forever. Well, this last novel that I published, it was an idea for 15 years, and finally it's like, just, it's time now. And it was time. Some things do have a time, like you're not available for them until a certain time, and that was very true for this. But I'm glad I did it, because I 15 years is plenty.
I think Missing Tyler, which is the novel I lost to Sarah Ockler, was 20 plus years sitting around. I mean, at one point it was on a floppy disk and I had to figure out how to get it off the floppy
like, what's
disk.
So,
because
so Tammy, how did it feel? Is it true for you what I said that when you did it, there was a feeling of integrity or wholeness, or like, what was it like to finally get that out?
it was incredible. And it was also an ego check of, okay, so I didn't land the 2 book deal, but I still published on Amazon. It's out there in the world. It's been well received. But that feeling, and that was the first book I published, holding that first copy, I mean, I'll never forget that moment of the legitimacy that writers seek in publishing. And it's huge. So I understand that I lost that moment, but that didn't define my writing identity. It was just a bummer of an experience, but my book still exists. It's still out there. It's still touching lives, and there it is, sitting on my
I
shelf.
see it.
I have
Yeah.
to show this. My girlfriend Christy bejeweled my book.
What?
Can you see how
Yes.
gorgeous this is?
So disco.
I get
Wow.
so excited about that. She made it
Wow.
just stunning. So
That's
thank you to
amazing.
Christy.
Just thanks, Christy. I love your story because it really is like, sure, it'd be great to have a book deal. Maybe not. Maybe it would stink. Maybe that would be awful. We don't know. We don't know like how our paths play out and why they do, but the fact that you are more whole and you are more empowered and all these different benefits, like that's that's what counts. That's what you can not, I'm gonna say take to the bank. That's what you can take to the next project and the next project. Like that's what fuels you. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you did it.
Well, and I actually wrote a blog about, what if, I don't remember what I titled it, but essentially it was, what if that dream path was actually not where you were supposed to be, right? And what if it was actually better that things didn't work out?
I'm feeling that.
And if I had published that, would I have started Gray Zone? Would I have become a career coach? Would I have led women's retreats? Would I have started my online communities? There's a decent chance I would have gone down a whole different path. Now, that might mean I was teaching writing, I was leading workshops, I was doing other things that were of value. But the idea that everything I have in my life right now may not exist is a pretty big trade.
Yeah, that's really the mystery of it all. Like who
Right.
knows? We can
Right.
only know what we did do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But that conversation kind of started us on the path of accountability and actually getting our projects done. So that might be a nice segue. And one of the ways you and I first connected, because I think I won an hour of time with you, or I bid on it, or something. Somehow you came into my life about 25 years ago, and we had a session. And I was working on finding Lancelot. I had come up with the concept after a writing retreat. And I don't know, maybe I had 38,000 words. And you asked me when I wanted to finish my book. And I just thought it was the funniest question. It's like, well, when it's done. And it was about February. So I said, okay, well, I guess the end of the year. And you said, okay. And how many words do you want it to be? I said, well, a typical novel might be 80,000 words. I'm not a big writer. I'm never going to write a 120,000 word novel. So let's go with 80,000. And so you had me literally just do the math, take what I had minus where my goal was, and set a weekly goal. And so every Monday, I would log my word count. And some weeks it would go down, and some weeks it would be up if I cut a scene or if I wrote more, or if I didn't write that week, I was on vacation. But as with any goal you set, once you've got the accountability, you're going to much more likely to hit the goal. And my first draft was done in September of that year.
Nice.
So I think that could have been sitting on my computer for a decade if I hadn't met you and learned that process. And I have taught that to so many people.
What about that do you think worked for you?
It made it manageable. It went from opening up your computer to say, okay, I'm going to write my book today, or I'm going to work on my book today. It was, okay, I'm going to write 5 pages this week. And that it made it so much less daunting.
Yeah, I think with creative fiction, creative writing, so much of it is out of control. Like we don't know what we're doing. We don't know like what's going to like how is this going to happen? That's one way we can gain some control. It's like, okay, I can count this. I can add this up. I can feel a sense of progress. And when in a book, it's such a large project, it often feels like you're not making any progress. So it's a way to have a sense of control.
Today's episode is brought to you by my dad, Barry Wachtel. My dad has been the biggest supporter of my creativity and from an early age inspired me to follow my heart. At one point, he even tried to get me to quit my job and allow him to pay for my life as I wrote the great American novel. I turned that offer down. For years, he's been wanting me to start a podcast, and I routinely said no, feeling like it was one more thing too many. What would I even have to say? When the intuitive hit came to start this podcast and the timing felt divinely aligned, I let him know I was ready. His response, he told me he was funding my first 3 episodes. So shout out to my dad, who's helping me hold this dream, making it possible, and inspiring me to always live life with intention. If you'd like to sponsor this podcast, please reach out. I have single episode and multi-episode packages available. My social influence is strong and my reach is wide. I'd love to see how we can get your business featured. So, what are some of the tips or things beyond what I just shared that you use in your coaching to help people become more, to get their work done, to get their art out in the world?
This is one of the big things that's kind of counterintuitive, and I feel like I should rebrand my coaching business, but it's mostly like helping people lower the bar.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
I was working with my writing group yesterday and talking about expectations. I thought I would get more done. It's holiday week. I thought I was still going to be able to do my writing days. And it's like, what do you know now that you didn't know when you set those expectations? And what is false about those expectations? And how do you feel when you don't meet them? And I think that we're kind of accustomed to being disappointed in ourselves or haranguing ourselves or I didn't do what I wanted to do. I always wanted to do more than I think. And I'm like, that's not helpful. That doesn't feel good. It's kind of, again, it's kind of like just some kind of gunk in the system that doesn't really need to be there. So helping people have expectations that are more aligned with their reality. So one of the things with that, like someone's like, I want to write 5 days a week. It's like, great. Okay. And if that's the maximum, if that's like your big goal, what is the minimum you'll live with? Like 3 sessions is, I'll be okay if I have 3 sessions. I'll feel good. So have a sliding scale, 3 sessions or 5 sessions. If you get 3, you're good. Awesome. If you get 5, you're even more of a victor. So that kind of reality check around setting yourself up so that you end on a positive, end the week on a positive note, and the month on a positive note. I think that gives a lot more fuel than feeling bad, because then you're just kind of like, oh, I didn't do what I wanted to do or said I or thought I would do, and now I've got to, you kind of have to build yourself up every time. So
Yeah.
that just feels more harmful to me than useful. So lowering the bar, keeping an eye on your expectations, where they come from, and then also like constantly calibrating. Every week you have to, okay, what's this week? Oh, this week I've got people coming in from out of town on Thursday. Okay, so I only have Monday and Tuesday to write. Okay, that's a lot different than when you set yourself up like, I'm going to write every week, 5 days a week. So don't be disappointed that you've got people coming into town. Don't set up all the rest of your life in competition with your writing. That I think is what makes also feel like a negative experience, to be like, oh, I can't write because my favorite people are coming into town. It's like, no, like, how do you let yourself enjoy both?
Love that. Don't let yourself be in competition with your writing. That's really powerful. One thing that I've found in the past that worked for me, getting back to finding Lancelot, is I had a routine about it where I wrote in a coffee shop in the mornings. So I would get up and leave the house at 6:45 and get to, it was actually Vic's on Broadway in Boulder, which no longer exists. So bummed. I loved that little coffee shop. It was really close to my house. And I had the same table I would usually use. Rarely was it taken by anyone else, but it was really my desk. And I told myself if I got to the coffee shop, I could buy the expensive latte. That was my reward, right? That was the payment I had to make to get to the writing. And for that hour in the morning before I went to my corporate role, I was that bohemian writer in Paris. I was the person who I identified myself as in my early 20s in college, this writer, free spirit. And it was the whole thing that went around that created the space. So it wasn't like, oh, I've got to go to my basement office and write because I said I was going to write today. It was, no, I get to go to the coffee shop and get the fancy latte and be the writer identity I so much want to be, while I, in that case, have this corporate identity. I'm also, in fact, I used to refer to my company as my benefactor. They were funding my artistic life.
Nice.
And so I think there's some ritual or structure that we can dress up around it to make it something that we're running towards.
Yeah, it could look any number of ways. It just has to be meaningful to you. That was very meaningful to you, being
Yes.
in a cafe, having a coffee.
Mm-hmm.
That meant a lot. And you weren't going to let yourself down once you got there. I call that the focus fee. I'm paying my $8 for my
That
cappuccino.
was exactly what
Like,
it was. It was a focus fee.
I'm not going to do anything else. Like, I'm going to focus here. So I've gotten a lot done in coffee shops just because it is a dedicated time and space for doing a dedicated thing that I can't get that here. I mean, I'll go and sit on my little sofa over here to get a shift if I need to do that. But that's, I know it sounds, I don't know, you and I are the same, like just being, I remember like being in the cafe in the early days when I was early 20s and like you, and just like, here I am with my stack of notebooks and my books. And I still feel the power of that time out of doing anything else, that time that's just for me as that creative person. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And every time I talk about that, I think about your writing retreats, I think in Lisbon and Paris, where it is like coffee shops and journals and writing, and it is playing with that whole identity and really allowing ourselves to be immersed in that. And one of these days I'm going to join you, but they just sound so wonderful. Share a little bit. I know we're going to cover your offerings later, but share a little bit about your retreats now.
Yeah, sure. At the top, you said London.
Oh,
And
I
I don't know
meant
if I,
Lisbon.
yeah, well, they're
Sorry.
almost the same word.
Or does that mean
I have done workshops in Lisbon for sure, or London. I love London as well, but Lisbon,
typo?
typo. I don't know. I've been leading creativity retreats in France since 2005. So this is something that I started doing as part of my leadership training. It was a coactive leadership, so how to lead with others, and got this idea with a friend to lead something in the south of France. We did it. It was great. It was profitable. I did that and a writing retreat in Paris. So kind of one after the other, because if you're going to fly all the way over there, you might as well do two.
Might as well.
And it was great. It was profitable right away. I bought a laptop with the money that I made from that. And so I started doing that. And what do you want to know? Because I could go on and on.
Just let's not go on and on. Let's be mindful of time. Just like what's the experience that people get when they come on one of your retreats? What are some of the things you do at the retreats that if somebody were
Yeah.
interested in going and really
Yeah.
diving into their creativity in that coffee shop in Europe feel vibe, what are they going to
Yeah.
experiencing?
One of the workshops that I lead with a couple of friends and colleagues. It's called Paris Sketchbook. And it's so much fun. Our whole point is let's have fun, let's play while we're learning. And our goal is to fill a sketchbook in a week.
Okay.
And it's not to make you feel crazy or speedy, but to help get past that thinking mind or that inner critic. we have workshop sessions in the morning in our studio that we rent, and then afternoon sketch ups in different places, my favorite places in Paris. And it's all designed so that you have time on your own to have your own experiences, to live like an artist in Paris. And I
Mm,
try to advise people, don't pack your schedule with museum visits. This is not your time to be a tourist rushing around seeing things. This is your time to be an artist so that you can sit in a cafe and sketch those people. So it's really about experiencing Paris as an artist. A new workshop that I'm developing that has been in my notebook for years now, I'm super excited about. It's a Paris food, art, and illustration workshop.
wow.
So yeah, I love food. I love the French, just the rituals around food, the glasses and the plates and the
Mhm.
things that the packaging that are around food. So this is a workshop where you'll leave with 12 illustrated pieces that you could use as cards or gift cards or a calendar. It's
Nice.
really not about the food or about keeping a sketchbook. It's about being creative and having fun and developing a point of view. So we'll have things like painting with coffee and cheese tasting. Like, how do you paint cheese? That's a challenge. And idea potlucks in the afternoons at different parks and cafes where we can brainstorm and have fun and just be playful together and innovative. What happens, Tammy, on these workshops is it is playful, it is fun. People are goofy. It's just like the sense of humor that runs throughout it all. I'm like, let's really play with that into making bodies of work that reflect that that humor and life, joie de vivre.
Yeah, it sounds so fun. I love it. I'm going to segue. One of the conversation topics that we wanted to touch on is a concept that you have called your creative edge. And I know this was something we talked about earlier when we were preparing for this conversation. So speak to me a little bit about that. And yeah, I'm just curious what that means to you.
I love this, and I should have brought a knife in because I think about a knife and a knife. One of the biggest challenges for creative people, and I'm sure you experience this, is we are so interested in so many things, all these different things we want to do, and we have a hard time focusing. What am I going to do? And then we don't do anything.
Yeah.
So we just kind of really bask in the idea flow, which feels good, but is kind of like being in a candy shop. It's like there's only so much of that you can take before you really want to engage and make things. So the creative edge is one way that I have for focusing a period of time. So for the year. So for instance, next year, what is my creative edge? The creative edge
Mm,
is what is that skill or place in the process of my, let's just use writing. Like, where in my writing am I right now? And what do I need to focus on? That if I focused on that for a period of time and really worked on that, would make a huge difference with everything else. So it could be you're at the place with your novel where it's about editing. It's like really editing, really learning how my revision process works, really working with feedback and like, how do I do that? How do I really get better at that? Or you could be like, I'm publishing it. So publishing isn't a creative edge, but what in that process? So for me this year, my creative edge with publishing my novel was connecting, reaching out, asking people for help. So that looked like me walking into bookstores in Lisbon and Paris with copies of my book and saying, will
mm,
you carry my book?
yeah.
Though, notice like that sounds painful. And it was to a degree. That's why the knife edge, like it's a very clear edge. Like it's a sharp edge. It can be cutting. Like it's it's not just like the soft, cozy place. You are on an edge.
It's pushing you.
It's pushing you. But so just quickly about going into those bookstores, I was working with my group and like, what's my spiel? What's my one line thing? And it was like, oh, like, okay, I've got it. And then when I did it, I just was like, just go to those three bookstores and this one day in Lisbon, just do it. It turned out, Timmy, it was the most natural thing in the world for Cynthia Morris to go into a bookshop look around at all the books, pick up a stack of books, talk to people, like sell books to people, chat up the bookseller, and then say, hey, I've got this book I think your customers might enjoy. So it turned out that what was my creative edge around connecting felt hard or felt difficult. But once I found my nature, like what's just natural to me, it became a lot easier. So it might seem like your creative edge is difficult or beyond your capacity. And I do think it is a skill that you might need to develop, but it doesn't have to be so hard.
Yeah. Well, I think this podcast is my creative edge right now. It's
Yay.
having me step into a place where I've actively avoided for a long time because it felt overwhelming.
So what's
And
the specific creative edge? Is it like developing content? Is it having conversations? What's
it's doing the
the
whole thing.
skill?
It's committing to the process. It's creating, it's learning the technique. It's understanding how to market it. It's all of it. It's taking on a new medium. You know, before we recorded, we were talking about, or maybe it was on the call. I don't even remember anymore. Doesn't matter. The mediums of how we convey stories, ideas, information. And we get really locked into, well, I'm a writer, so I write books, I write blogs. And well, I'm also a communicator and I'm an idea generator, and I can do that in audio form through a podcast. And the stories that you can tell can be done through this medium. So it's embracing all of the new technology and mediums that we have to share the stories and not being so locked into, but I do this thing and I'm this thing.
Yeah, what a great creative edge, being open to new media, new formats. A
Yeah.
podcast is a multimodal thing, and you're really embracing your role as a producer.
Yes. Yes. I am. Yeah. I'm really stepping into something new for me.
Yay, good for you. It feels good. I think it's good when we stretch and grow and you're like, wow, I'm actually good at that. Or
Yeah.
I'm so much better than I thought I could be. It's
Right.
just our minds are so limited about our capacity and what we can do. So this is why I love seeing you try something new. And also, it's really in your nature to invite people to play along. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. Well, this has been great, but I do think it's probably time to wrap up our conversation and let our listeners move on with their day. So, Cynthia, we talked a little bit about your retreats, and we've mentioned your book, Her Lisbon Colors. We've mentioned a couple of your books. Anything you're currently promoting for 2026 that we haven't talked about that you would like to share with the listeners?
My one-on-one coaching is really helpful for people who are stuck and have blocks that around their writing or in their lives that they want to finally be rid of. It's not about productivity or setting a timer or any of that. It's about really clearing things that are in the way of being who you want to be. So that's a big thing that I love to do and I find is really effective for people. My Write On coaching group is great for people who have a project that they want to focus on, but don't ever make the time and have all these different reasons why they shouldn't get to it. It's a week by week showing up to be accountable and be in community. And it's super fun to get stuff done. And then the Paris workshops that are in late August and September. Those are all be on my website at originalimpulse.com.
All right. Thanks for sharing your website. And we will have your social channels and your website in our social media posts and attached in the comments on the podcast. So thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening. Be sure to listen all the way to the end of this episode to get your inspirational quote. If you're looking to bring more intention into your life, reach out so we can set up an exploratory call. Through retreats, monthly soul circles, and my Option C career life coaching packages, my programs and services can bring you back to a place of intention, allowing you to live a more switched on life. Check out my Prairie Healing Retreat coming up this spring, just 90 miles south of Chicago, and learn more about all of my offerings at www.grayzonementoring.com. And now for today's inspirational quote. Everybody walks past 1,000 story ideas every day. The good writers are the ones who see 5 or 6 of them. Most people don't see any. Orson Scott Card. And if you don't know him, he was a famous science fiction author. Go out and look at the world through new eyes. Till next time.